How did the colonists go from loyal British citizens in 1763 to American revolutionaries in 1776?
Tension between Britain and the colonists grew as new laws were forced upon them. Britain threw controversial economic and socially upsetting laws on the colonists. The economic laws being the Sugar Act, the Currency Act, and the Stamp Act. The social ones being the Proclamation of 1763, the Quartering Act, and the Declaratory Act. The Sugar Act made it to where there was a tax on sugar, which was used in a lot of things like rum and other things. The Currency Act made it where only Britain could print money, and the Stamp Act taxed all written documents. The Proclamation of 1763 trapped the colonists to colonize east of the Appalachian Mountains. The Quartering Act made it to where colonists had to house British troops if they needed a place to stay. The Declaratory Act made anything Britain said law.
The tension between the colonists and the British grew even more as more events began to unfold, making the colonists wonder and even doubt what Britain's true motives were behind all these events. The first stage of the revolution was set, the second began with the Townshend Acts. The Townshend Acts placed import duties, collectible before goods entered colonial markets, including the commodities like lead, glass, paper, and tea. On March 5th, 1770, a crowd gathered and began taunting the guard. Soldiers and a captain came to his aid, only to be pelted with snowballs. Without orders, they opened fire into the crowd and killed 5 people, wounding 6. The 2 of them died later. This was called the Boston Massacre. The Tea Act gave the British East India Company a monopoly on all tea imports to America, hitting at American merchants. Even though this was ill-advised, it was still passed. This finally sparked the Americans to go from resistance to downright rebellion. A group of 50 or 60 men were to march to the wharf where tea ships were, board the ships, then dump tea into the harbor. This was called the Boston Tea Party. No doubt, this definitely sparked the tension even more. As revenge for the Boston Tea Party, a series of attacks calculated to punish Massachusetts and to strengthen a British hand were passed.
The First Continental Congress was a crucial part in the American Revolution. It was the first step to the creation of American national political community. Every representative came from all over the American colonies in different beliefs, traditions, and backgrounds, so the first few minutes of the meeting had everyone worried and full of doubt to work with such different people. Samuel Adams stood up and declared that no matter the person's background, it didn't matter. So that was the beginning of our government. Lexington and Concord was a famous battle that no one could forget. The first shot was also famous. Being loud and clear, people called it the shot heard around the world. It was a colonial victory, and that was the beginning of the American Revolution. The Second Continental Congress was in 1783. During this important meeting, the Articles of Confederation was created. It was the first form of government of the United States of America. Thomas Paine's Common Sense was the first written work that openly asked for independence from Great Britain. It was distributed throughout the American colonies to raise awareness. The Declaration of Independence stated that the colonies were now independent states and no longer a part of British Empire. At the time, it was an act of high treason, and if the writers of the document were apprehended, they would have been persecuted and murdered for it.